All right, Brother Dailey. God bless you, brother.
Hey,
Thank you, brother. It's in your hands.
thank you, Dr. Carter. And hello, Black Wall Street family. I know that some of you guys are going to be listening to this a little later. I know that there's a lot going on. I just want to tell you that I am very happy. I'm very excited. I'm still moving here and shaking here. And as I said before, we're going to continue doing some more sessions. I'm setting up on July 28th, just as a note, a Zoom where we can actually go into some proposals and some bids that are getting ready to come shooting out. As we were speaking today, just to let you know, before I got on, so if you hear me a little hesitant, I'm receiving notifications and just trying to review immediately that, Supreme Court just allowed for the termination of a lot of folks that work for the Department of Education. So, there's a lot I'm still trying to unpack that we're getting ready to unpack there. And it's going to be a while before I can really unpack that. And, I really wanted to take a little time for us to kind of talk a little bit about, continually to prepare ourselves. I was going back through some of the executive summaries that I had, and one of the major themes that I saw kept being represented was youth and mentorship and programs and ideas and dreams that people were discussing about how to actually put yourself in a position where you are providing, workforce-style training. And I wanted to just kind of just open up just some time for everyone to realize is that we're all working on the same thing. A lot of us, believe it or not, know that we want to create a stable and a sustainable work environment in our communities, and we know that that's the way out for a lot of our conversations and situations that we are bringing to the forefront. And we have brought to the forefront, not just now, but we brought these things to the forefront, months ago when we were looking at renewable energy and we were looking at programs that we're going to put ourselves in that position to offer that to the community. So with that in mind, I want to just share with everyone, where I'm at and, just a few updates and explain that these things can be done. They have been done. I am currently doing them now. I'm working on another one, and I wanted to share some of both successes and some lessons learned that will set us up for the next, financial opportunity that arises. So I'm going to do a couple things that I just want to repeat because I know we used a lot of terminology last year, so I'm going to highlight a few things in our proposal writing that we addressed, but I'm going to go back over it just real quick so that we can be on the same page before I jump into this next part of which type of proposal we're going to be working on and how this proposal is going to support you. The first is there were some phrases we used. One of them was cost. When we were doing a proposal, we talked about cost represented some of the resources that you expended by the seller to supply the solution. Remember, we were talking about a technical solution in our executive summaries that was solving an issue. We were talking about how this particular program or this particular product, whether it is you working with mentoring fathers, young fathers, or men or women who are coming out of domestic violence situation, or you are dealing with veterans who are dealing with post-traumatic stress, or you're trying to house individuals that truly are living at the poverty line and paycheck to paycheck is just not giving them the head or the equity that they are desperately trying to build. And so we talked about, the solution at being your executive summary. We talked about it being kind of not stagnant, but pushed into what we call a proposed solution, a technical solution that does give us an opportunity to be funded by whether it be for public funds that come through our taxes, or it is from private funds that may benefit from tax breaks, or they are looking to actually push a certain initiative or roll out a new product that may be going to market. So we talked a little bit about that supply chain logistics. And one of the major words we talked about that was high was the cost. And for those of us that may be coming in, I like to relate things to the spiritual kingdom, because that's really what, the foundation is. But when we look at cost, there's a cost to everything that we do. There's a cost to being not just, receiving the gift of salvation, but there's a cost to being a follower of Christ. And one of the things that we pointed out was that you can take these principles in your solution and understand that there's always going to be a cost associated with it, but not to be discouraged by the cost. The cost is really the thing that helps, although the technical definition is resources that you expend for this solution, it also helps to set what we call the price. And the price is the money that is expected to be given in payment for this solution. So let me give you an example. We started around a year ago, and folks were writing their executive summaries, and they said, Nate, this is what I want to do. This is how we want to do it. They would always ask me, so how much should I make, or what is going to be the cost? They get so stuck on the cost, they say, oh my God, this is going to cost too much. I need the money. I need money. But what they don't realize is that the cost really is just setting you up for the price. And the price is the amount of resources that you need to expend, plus whatever you get in terms of compensation. And this is where we get to that next conversation, which is price to win. And so we talked about, we want a price to win, where we're not the ones that are losing. When we write these proposals, we don't want to be the ones that are just sending out our costs and only recouping what we put out. This is what the challenge is running a nonprofit and depending on grants. And you remember when, around this time a few years ago, we discussed that you can't just depend on grants. Sometimes you may have to depend on loans or private equity investments or liquid capital or in-kind donations, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you are priced to lose rather than to win, or you're priced to be stagnant, or you're staying the same. Okay, you don't want to trade off of servicing goods. You want to make money on your servicing goods, and that means that you need to understand what is called pricing to win. So when you price to win, you're going to be taking the combination of price and your capabilities, yielding probability of basically winning the seller's objectives. So what I mean by when I say that, what I mean is when you price to win, you're essentially saying, this is how much I know when I'm looking at my supply and my demand, this is how much I know you're going to really be paying. Okay? So this is how much it costs to get it done, but this is how much I need to be making. And you're understanding that there's a price in between there that's what we call price to win. But pricing to win, and remember, I'm putting the ing at that, but that's just the process that we're getting to so that we can find that sweet spot. Okay? And I'm going through these terminologies slowly, hopefully, so I can get to a bigger conversation as we go on. But I want everyone to remember that this is when we got into the next conversation of your budget. Okay? We talked about what was your maximum budget, what was your minimum budget, and then what was the budget that you need to be able to address. So there are three different levels of the budget, okay? Remember, we talked about the maximum budget, addressable budget, and the minimum credible budget. And when we got into the maximum budget, we're talking about the total funds available for the purchase, including all your internal costs, overhead costs, all those things. The addressable budget is the funds that are available to the seller after the buyer's expenses, meaning if they only have $10,000 to spend and you charge them $10,000, they don't have any more money. So that's the addressable budget. But if they have a little bit more, they have a little bit more to spend. That's the budget you really want to make sure you can address. And then there's the minimal credible budget, which is the amount below which the customer doubts the credibility of obtaining an acceptable solution. Essentially, what you're talking about is, does this budget really make sense? Guys, is this really realistic? Is this credible? So these three, remember, and we talked about this is why we had those websites, remember, that brought us to things like looking at the labor statistics. And I know I bored you guys with that information of looking and making sure you got the right salary, wages, making sure you're looking at the pricing for the services that you're doing, because you want to be priced to win, and you want to make sure you have a credible budget. So I want to go back to, I just wanted to go through there, and then the other part we went into, and I'm going to try to go a little bit faster on this, but we talked about capabilities. Now, capabilities is one of the major areas where we have to understand just because we want to do something doesn't mean we're capable of doing it now. Let me give you an example, okay? I want to be a football player, okay? I've always wanted to be a football player, and the reality is that, you know, this is something personal I'll share with all of Black Wall Street. Don't tell anybody, though. I talked about this. But I remember one day when I was about maybe about 16, 17 years old. I was in, at that time, I think I was in Tennessee, and I was out playing football, backyard football with some friends. And if he still remembers me, I don't know if he remembers me, but I remember that I worked on a corner side. That means I was on the defense. Those who don't play football or look at football, don't worry. This story is going to go downhill real fast. I was on the side that didn't have the football. And so that meant that I was the one who was supposed to be chasing people who had the football. It's real simple. And so, you know, the play set hiked, and, you know, we all ran, and then the quarterback decides to throw the football to the guy that's nearest me. And so obviously that meant that I was supposed to engage and make sure I tackled that person to the ground. Well, I went after him full speed. You know, I was fast, or at least I thought I was. And so, you know, I went after him, and out of nowhere, some guy comes and just hits me. And I mean, he hits me. I did a 360 in the air. And I'll tell you, if they had YouTube at that time, I would have been viral because everybody stopped. It was like, yo, is he okay? And it was crazy. I did not 360. Yeah, it was a 360. I spun in the air. I did not see him coming. And I said, I didn't think I was supposed to be getting hit anyway. I said all that to say, and it was at that one moment that I decided that I didn't have the capabilities of doing this game. And that was and if I were to continue doing this, I needed to build some more capabilities up. Now, I'm not telling you to quit. It's just at that time, I made some real life decisions. So in this business, it works the same idea, the same concept. Sometimes you can want to play something, but you just got to build some more capabilities to do it. And so it is important that when you are putting together your proposal and you're creating your technical solution and it's for your community, and the reason I'm saying this is because we're going to get into just a few things that have came out. You got to remember to ask yourself this question is, what is my capability? Okay? What can I really do? And here's two words that it can help you. So what is your maximum justifiable capability and what is your minimum acceptable capability? Okay? What can you justify and then what can you reasonably be credible at being able to be capable of doing? So for me, I was just not capable. I was capable of, I guess, keeping my eye on him, but obviously I needed more training somewhere else, so it wasn't anything justifiable. I can't justify being a football player. I got the minimum capabilities, and that has stopped after that. My career has ended after that brutal hit. And so one of the things you have to keep in mind is your minimum acceptable capability and your maximum justifiable capability. And just for the sake of making sure that we're clear on it, the minimum is the least capability acceptable to your customer. Make sure you remember it's the person who's giving you the money or the person who's buying your product. What is the minimum that they will accept? The next is what is capability of the customer can justify without gold playing, meaning without padding all your fees, right? Stop adding all those other numbers in there. What is the justifiable ability that you have? And you want to make sure you know that as you're coming into your proposal, as you're looking at it. These are just some things that we had discussed. I wanted to go back over them before. If you need to be reminded of what these terminologies mean and how it works in terms of looking at your winning pricing window. Remember we said that WPW, winning pricing window. which is that region. It's that grid. If you want to learn more about that, go back to Shipley. I talked about this before. That was Shipley and Associates. You want to go back to that and look at that capability and pricing grid that contains your winning price and your capabilities. So if you really want to go back and study that, I would really suggest that before you jump into your executive summary or you start to write your proposal or you see all these opportunities and they're about to start coming out. That's why I'm going through this right now. I'm going through this right now just one more time so people can remember. Go back to Shipley and you'll be able to see exactly what that model was. And so the other thing I want to touch on really quick, so we touched on the terminology. The other part I want to touch on is your team. And this is something we already addressed, but I'm going to go back over it just real quick because we talked about this in Tulsa. And when we were going through Tulsa, there was more questions that people had that we didn't really get a chance to, that I was hoping that they would be able to understand, and they did. They did a great job. But I want to go back again because some other folks may need a refresher on it as they see these grants and these proposals come out. I'm saying this to you because we're getting ready to go right into that season, and it's important you start, those who are serious, start to prepare their teams accordingly because those teams are going to be critical. Remember, so the teams that we have are the blue and the black team, which are the individuals who are going to go out looking for grants. They go out looking for funding. That's your blue and your black team. That's your sales team. They're looking for public funds. They're looking for private funds. That's the people you want to make sure are good to go. That's where the ones who are out there beating the pavement every day. There's your sales force that works both in the public and the private sector. That's who you want to make sure that you're talking with. So your blue and your black team. The next team that you want to make sure that you have on deck is your pink team. That pink team is that's your engineering team. Those are your subject matter experts. Those are the individuals that you need to have on deck that can build the house, that can perform the service, that can do the mentoring, that can do the teaching, that can do the work. You want to make sure that you have their resumes collected. Hear me, collect their resume. And one of the things we touched on when I was in Tulsa was the ability to look and use AI to find the subject matter experts in your area. And I'm going to, challenge folks again to start reaching out to them. If you want to say, well, I don't know how I'm supposed to find somebody to do this job, copy and paste that, put it right into your chat GPT and ask it and be very specific about the zip code that you're trying to reach. Use your tools so that you're not doing all of the heavy lifting and all you're really doing is just doing the call to say, hey, are you interested in joining me on this proposal? Do you mind if you just shoot me over your resume? That's your pink team. Gathering together, have the lunch, have the coffee. That's where you spend, if you need to wine and dine just a little bit. I don't know if they still do that today. They say chivalry is dead, but I don't know if it's dead for everybody. But one thing is certain, that no matter how much you travel, no matter where you go, people do business with those that they, know, like, and trust. So, that's still not going to go anywhere. So, pink team. Remember, don't treat the pink team like the green team. And the green team is the people who are going to be working on a proposal for you. So sometimes that green team, that's really the bulk of your money. And I say this to some folks when they're building their capabilities. They say, well, Nate, I just got this little tax money. I just got this little real estate commission, and you want to go make sure you give it to God, give his 10%. And then, of course, you want to make sure you give me that 5% because you just, you're so happy. But you got another, 5% you got to play with. And so this is where your money should be going, not really on the property, but building that green team so that they can be going after, sometimes 200, 300, however you need to break down that cost per hour, make sure it makes sense. But that's the cost of going after the opportunity. Remember, we talked about that word earlier today when we talked about the resources that you send out. What is it that you have that will work? I'm going to pause here because, God has been really bothering me, with that last a couple of weeks ago, we did that conversation in Deuteronomy where we talked about being diligent. And as we were discussing it, I went through the section where it says it was equivalent to putting that that blood on the post during the Passover time. And, I stopped for a second. I said, it's the small things you do that really make the biggest impact, for God. It's just knowing it's that one little thing of act of faith, the act of trust, that one little thing. And I'm saying this because there's some people out there who are listening to me that they're taking up that offering. They see the need. They only have $500 to work with. They only have so much to work with, and they need to make something happen. And what I'm saying is you want to put those resources into your green team. Because once you see that opportunity, you may have to go find it. You may pull all the resumes and the pink team together, but now you've got to have somebody put that thing together. You don't want them going out trying to find it and bring the people together. You want them to put it together because you have the funding opportunity. You know where you've got somebody you want to ask for the money, okay? And you need them to help you write the proposal to make it make sense so that they can show how they're getting paid and how they're benefiting the community at the same time, and then what's in it, in terms of the long-term growth strategy. And so holding that little money in, waiting for your green team, this is where you want to look into the month of September. Because between August and September, this is why I'm going through this again. We dealt with this 12 months ago when I said, hey, guys, we got to know this. We got to work together. We got to figure out how to work with us. And so I'm going back through this again so people know why the structure is what it is. If you stay the course, it doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter who you're asking. It doesn't matter what solution that you're trying to bring to the table. Your proposal will come with power because you put the right pieces together. So that green team is what's going to help you do that. And then, of course, if you don't have that money, you say, oh, well, Nate, tell me what to do if I don't. Remember, you have a gold team. And that gold team, that's what you want it, but it's also that person who says, yes, this is an opportunity I want to go after. Typically, your gold team is your stakeholders. They're the people who are going to say, go, no go, we're good to go, we're not good to go. Those are the people who are making decisions. I had one business transaction, really wanted to help out, couldn't really do that because the person who was on the gold team really weren't ready to go after that opportunity. And because my job was to work for the person with the gold team, I had to say no. My client was the gold team. Unfortunately, those who were working on the opportunity that they brought to the table, they just didn't get the go, no-go decision. They got the no-go decision. And so you have to remind yourself there's nothing wrong with not going after every opportunity. In fact, it's biblical not to go after every opportunity. God says all you need is one fish, and I pay the taxes off of that. He didn't tell him. He could have got him 100 fishes. He already did that. He said all I need is one. So it pays to know who's giving the orders and who you're taking instructions from and who's on your gold team. Because if it ain't God, I promise you, you might want to have another look at your gold team. But for those pastors and some of those other business leaders out there that are still trying to say, okay, how do I situate my team to expand? Make sure you know who's on your gold team, because sometimes and I've seen this, people will be so good on the green team that you want to push them to the gold team, and they're not a gold time member. They are not a stakeholder, and it can be a little difficult because the reality is that they do know how to put the opportunity together because they are successful in that area, but it's important. The last two I'm going to talk about is your red team and your white team, which is really the red team is putting out fires. Your white team is seeing whether or not and why you didn't get the proposal. We're going through that real quick because there's a certain team as we continue moving I'm going to be talking to, and it's not just those folks who are out looking for opportunities, but I really want to talk to those red and white teams right now. Those red and white teams is really what needs to be on the table, because those denials that you get, those things that they come back and say you don't have it, let me tell you something. Just because it's a delay don't mean it's a denial. Okay, that's not how God works. I've been through too much and seen enough these days to be able to explain that God has a process too. Just because it ain't your season in spring don't mean it won't be it in the fall. Just because it ain't it in the summer don't mean it won't be it in the winter. And I'm saying to you that God don't need the weather to change in order to change your season. He just needs you to trust him with the season you're in. So when I say that, it's this season we are walking back into the procurement season, the season where people have got to spend money, they got to get it out the door. You're still walking into the procurement season where people have got to file their business taxes coming in October. Even the small business, you probably got them extended. You got them coming up in October. You need a win for the year. And then, of course, there's Christmas. And then, of course, there's the birthday gift and love offer, and everybody's planning to send me at the end of the year. It's a huge bonus. So it is important that we get ourselves to a position where we know that it's our season and that the procurement season for the federal government and for all local municipal governments who are restarting, most of them are restarting in July, they are changing seasons and they are putting out RFPs. They're putting out these things now, okay? They're getting to see how much money they're getting. And as the tax bill hits and changes, there's going to be corporations who will have to spend money on certain things. And that's some of the stuff I want us to talk about today, is what corporations are going to be actually spending money on some of our programs. Okay, that's actually what I really wanted to get to, and I took 30 minutes to set it up. Some of the things that we have, I have been tracking is actually within the Department of Education. And I was asked to put a letter or put some things together on things to watch out for on the big, beautiful bill here or whatever they want to discuss. But the truth is, as I was doing it, I realized I do better putting out solutions than I do putting out problems. I'm not a big expert on really defining problems. I take more time and more pride, and that's just sort of my personal abilities is to actually craft solutions that actually work. And so when I began to actually review the bill, there was a couple things that really stuck out to me that I thought that would be important for us to consider, and that is the ability for us to tap into some of the private education funding that's getting ready to come in, where they are now creating private schools or they're getting ready to fund these schools. And, you know, there's certain brackets that will have the tax incentive that will actually be very lucrative for some of the bigger churches and some of the other areas with child care programs and other tax credit programs. But most importantly, it offers us an opportunity for actual businesses to come online. So give me a second. I want to make sure I pull up the right website for this private institutions. But if you haven't already started thinking about a private institution or education institution, whether it be tutoring or whether it be anything that has to deal with natural energies or things that kind of are priority, it's important for you to start taking a look at that stuff now. Hold on, I want to pull up this exact document, and I kind of lost it here. Sorry about it, but I want to share with everybody. Here we go. The big bill here. One of the things it does, it creates choice tax credits. That's what it is. Choice tax credits to expand the education freedom opportunity for students. It enhances the 529 savings accounts to make education more affordable. And then also, watch this, strengthens the employer-provided child care credit and boosts child care assistance. And one of the things that you'll see in this, and I'm going to quote from one of the American Federation of Children of Tommy Schultz. He says, the mission is clear. They want to deliver school choice to every state in America. And their vote, or this vote, he says, marks a monumental step for the goal in the first time in history. And we're eager to see, obviously, this president sign this school choice into law, into what they're trying to create. And I'm really wanting us to kind of take a moment to kind of understand that these programs that they're discussing will impact not just how we look at our small businesses, but also how the employer student loan repayment benefit will actually be able to be a huge support for those who are trying to either have their businesses or have folks or want to attract folks who are really, of great talent, like your pink teams, but you really don't know really what you have to offer them, but you do make a little money. Tax credit or being able to put money into this to support their student loans is a tax benefit that you will have handy. And so I wanted to just kind of talk about what these fringe benefits just sort of look like in one way. And it's the student loans currently. An employer can make a non-taxable contribution, non-taxable, to an employee's student loan repayments through the Educational Assistance Program. And the first $5,250 of the employer-provided education assistance is excluded from the employee's gross income. That's huge, guys. That was set to expire at the end of 2025. However, this bill takes this also the indexes of inflation into consideration of the limit of 52 to 50 and the effectiveness for the payments made after, and that affects the payments after December 31, 2025. And so I wanted to make sure that everyone had an idea of how they can start to situate their small businesses now, because education is not just something that is going to be necessary for us to continue on a private scale. It is, in fact, the fundamentals and a foundation of what I learned and some of the things I was able to glean from being in Tulsa and learning about the Booker T. Washington School and how and why Booker T. Washington was so adamant about, creating some of these workforce-led programs or things that were going to get individuals in a position so that they can take advantage of all of the private education opportunities around them. And so I wanted to really step into that conversation a little bit further and talk about why, as you're creating your team or you're looking to put your proposal together, or you say, this is my business, I'm going to 1099 some individuals, I'm going to establish this account or create this. I'm talking about taking something that's very little and really getting the buy-in for, as a tax break for your company so that you can be able to not just leverage what has already occurred, but you can also benefit and expand using your ability to put your proposals together. And this is something that I will be doing right now in terms of how I'm working with my interns. In fact, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because next week I'm going to actually take this one step further, and I'm going to continue to grind in on the proposals for those interns who are looking to say, you know what, I can write some of this stuff. I know how to use ChatGPT, but I don't really know what I'm asking or what I'm looking for. I'm going to continue to double down on this conversation as time goes on, because your ability to do that for a small business is not just a job for you, but it's also income, a tax write-off for the schooling and the money that they were going to pay you anyway. That will also help to really further our cooperation along so that we can. If you haven't already heard that there is a Trump account, I'm not going to go talk about these Trump accounts right now, the IRA for Savings Account for Children, but I will say that if you haven't taken a look at it, please do, because it will not just open up your ability to support the youth, but it will also open up your ability to support a business that's doing workforce development. So these things do work in tandem. And so if you can just begin to get on the same wavelength here, and that's why I said you want to make sure you know which team these individuals are going to fall on so that you can take advantage of the opportunities that are coming down that pipeline. The other thing I want to touch on, and then I'm going to end it there because I know I've said quite a bit today, but I want to touch on some of the storms that are happening. I wanted to go through the actual process of that, and I know that's all the way random, but the reason I want to touch on that is because there was some when I was in Mississippi, the Delta area, and I was going through to the Houston area, I remember stopping in at a few CDFIs that were in the area, and they had tons of money that they were sitting out there waiting for solar repairs and roofs and things. But the issue that they were running into is that the roofs that they were trying to put the solar on, they were just old. They weren't qualified. They had sustained so much damage. And the reality is a lot of the folks there didn't really understand the insurance part of their roofing, the storms, how they were impacting, but how that also gave an opportunity that if the longer you wait, the worse it gets, your rate is going to go up. It's not like car insurance. Your rate goes up when there's a storm no matter what because other folks are going to claim. And it's something that I just wanted to touch on just real quick because there is a lot of storms that are happening. And I understand that you've got a lot of folks probably out there who sell insurance, and, you know, they're probably going to say, Nate, you're telling people to do this for free. I'm supposed to walk them through this. Don't be mad at me. I just really think that right now, you know, we should be sharing this intelligence with each other as much as we can because of the times that we live in and not because of the amount of money that we're going to make. And so I wanted to just talk about that cycle that happens when there is damage. Just keep in mind, when there is damage to your home, and I'm going to tie this all into a proposal in a minute, but when there is damage to your home, you want someone that the next thing is there's a company that's going to offer some type of free inspection or evaluation. Somebody's going to get up on there, check the roof, and then they're going to come up with an agreement for you and the homeowner or whoever it is for the repairs to be done. Now, here's where the things get tricky. Claim is filed, adjuster visits, and has to approve the claim. This step-by-step of how this happens, the homeowner and the contractor that looks at the diagrams and the estimates and the insurance adjuster that comes to the meeting, here's the area I wanted us to focus on. You may choose a contractor, but make sure your contractor is there when the adjuster gets there. Here's the reality of what I've found, because I started digging into this, and I said, well, why don't our people, you know, I saw that they were making claims, they were doing these things, but they weren't exactly benefiting from some of these programs that were out there on the insurance side of giving things done. And the reason being is because when the adjuster came out there, they didn't have their contractor there. And in every situation when I went through, I was reviewing it, very seldom was their contractor there when the adjuster was there. And it is the reason I'm bringing this particular thing up is because you're not going to know everything in the insurance. That's not your job. But when you start off, and let's say you are dealing with the rebuild, you want to make sure your contractor is there when the adjuster gets there to talk apples to apples. It's almost like not having a lawyer in the courtroom. I'm not saying that you can't go pro se. I'm just saying that the judge asks you, are you sure you want to do that? You know I can just get you a public defender for free. So I'm saying to you is that if you're going to get that free inspection and you are in those zones and you are going through, this is information you want to keep in the back of your mind to make sure you pass along and to make sure whatever contractor that you have, and even if you get someone who is just trying to give you a free inspection, make sure they're there when your adjuster gets there so you can be talking apples to apples, okay, because that's where a lot of things are being messed. And then the second thing I want to talk about is understanding the difference between actual cost of value and double-checking your insurances. And God help me because I know I'm talking a lot, but I need to get this out because it's really important that we understand what actual cash value means. There are some people with insurance, homeowners insurance, and they haven't checked it. And most folks from our people, we just haven't checked our insurances. Homeowners, it's too much to read. We pay it. That's enough for us. But and really review it because you may be paying for something, overpaying for something, or don't have something very vital included, like making sure you have full what they call ACV replacement costs and not just the current replacement cost, okay, CRV. So it's just little things like that. And I found that has been one of the major challenges that I'm seeing across the board. And I'm pulling this information because I said to myself, I said, there was no way I was not going to be sharing this, especially if I have pastors and leaders who are looking to make sure that they are protecting or at least creating resilient communities so they know what to do and they're not getting scammed or taken advantage of during this time or during crises. So I'm going to leave it right there because I know I said a whole lot, but I hope that something I said was helpful to you guys. And before I go, there's something I just want to I'll just say is that if you're like me and you spend a lot of time traveling and living in hotels and eating whatever you can find whenever you have a chance, you know, it often leads to you're going to embrace things like a buffet as a last resort most of the time. And common staples in hotels or lineups usually boast about their dairy, all this different food that they're having. Well, the buffet is as American as you can get. It's choice, it's freedom, it's diversity, and it's abundance all in one place. Because you can have it all at a buffet, and most people usually do. But somehow, typically in that process, you don't end up with massive stomach aches, and sometimes, that buffet is canned to the American life with stomach and stress, headaches, and all kinds of things. And you understand why it leads to what I'm about to say is so important, and that is prioritization. More does not equal better. In fact, sometimes it's even worse. And so I just wanted to share that last thought with everybody, because there's a lot of information that's coming at you, and I'm going to continue driving in as much information as I can, but it's going to be up to you to prioritize how you are being productive with this information. And it's my prayer that as we continue moving, and I'm going to continue delivering as much information as I can, you understand that I'm prioritizing the things that will directly impact our lives so that we can have an opportunity not just to survive this, but to actually come out making some money and saying, listen, there is a process to this, and there is money to be made as long as we put our bucket there. But it's going to come down to that one little word there, which is prioritization. And I appreciate everybody's attention to this, and I'm going to leave it there, Dr. Carter. I'm done. I did 45 minutes. I didn't do too fast.
That's wonderful, brother. Thank you so much. And I would that everyone would govern themselves to this very valuable insight and guidance. And so I'm going to allow you to ask questions. If you have a question for Brother Dailey, please feel free to ask. Excellent job, Brother Dailey, by the way. Excellent job. Okay,
I have a question. This is Dr. Little. Thank you, Mr. Dailey, for doing an amazing job with sharing how we can actually get prepared for submitting these proposals. Now, you spoke about the different teams, and my question is, how do you balance when you're a part of all the different colors? You fit into each color and category. How do you balance that?
Oh, that's a good question, because that's exactly why we have prioritization. Part of that, remember, is that, you have to have one before you have the other. So what I do, and here's my tools that I use, is I have one journal only dedicated to my proposal team. So I don't write nothing in there unless it has to deal with the proposal team. And the reason I do that is because so much information may come at one time, but I know if I update that journal, I'll never lose my place. And I was the only way I can bring this home is, if you ever get into the car and you step on the brake, put your key in the ignition, and put your hand on the steering wheel, and then put the car in drive and put it in reverse. You check your two mirrors. You look right in the rearview mirror. You look in the back, and then you look at the camera that's there. And then you look around and make sure everybody else in the car got their seatbelts on. You adjust the radio. At what point do you start inching out? Well, the thing is that you really don't know when you start inching out. And that's how when you're doing a proposal, it should be. The reality is that once you see that it's all about just knowing your team and what comes when, you don't have to worry about all of the things that are moving. They're going to take care of themselves. Your job is just to check on it. And so while you are saying, well, I'm the one who actually, you don't have to be the mirror. You have to be the driver. You don't have to be the gas. You have to be the driver. You don't have to be the camera. You have to be the driver. And so the key is to remember what's priority. What's priority is that you're the driver. And when you're driving your team, don't think of it as I'm doing all of that work. You have to remember that there's a cost when you're the driver. You're the one who has to decide when to go and when to stop, slow down and when to brake, because you're the driver. But don't think of it as I'm playing on the team. Think of it in terms of I'm actually driving the car with all my teams in it, and I'm checking everybody as I go along. Because at the end of the day, it's your gas. It's your energy. It's your resources. It's up to you whether or not you slow it down or you speed it up. Now, for me, I'm not a big speeder. I drive all the time. I like cruise control. So that's why I use my journal. I use my journal because no matter what, I know I can go back and find out where I am in the process. And knowing where I am in the process is literally the definition of knowing what I'm doing. So that's that. I hope that answers your question, but if not, let me know.
Well, it does. It does help bring clarity what I need to do, because I feel like I'm all over the place trying to get this done and that done. I need to really just narrow down and put everything in one location, and not only in the written journal, but also creating a file for when it's time to submit proposal. The documents are already easily accessible. But thank you for sharing.
No, and I'm glad you said that, because it's the templates that really take the most time, isn't it? It's knowing that if you miss a step, then the challenge when you submit the proposal is not knowing what you messed up on, because you had so much going on. And that is a common issue. That is literally, when you're a farmer, you just don't grow carrots. You have to grow a whole lot on the farm. So don't think of it as my mind is everywhere. I would think of it as I'm the farmer, I'm the driver, and I'm actually having to grow each one of these at a separate pace. It's just your job to keep track of the timing. And I'll say this, is that Stephen Covey said it this way. He said the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. And I like that. That's how that's what my journal was really for. And I hope that helps a little bit. But thank you for the question.
I have a question. Christopher Bradley, Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
All right. You was talking about public defenders. How can I get in contact with a public defender with you?
With a public defender?
Yes.
That's probably something we have to talk about offline, but I don't want you to put all your business out here in the street, my man. But I don't mind having a conversation with you offline about that, because I know a lot of people are going to need some support these days.
Do you need my number?
If you would send it to the web team, I'm sure they can direct it to me if that's okay. But if you want to give it to me, I prefer you not to give it, plastered over the internet. Over the call. But it's
right.
Up to you.
It's 862.
Okay.
424. 0982.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
This is one of our newer members, Brother Dailey, out of New Jersey. Welcome to the family, Brother Bradley. All right.
Thank you.
Any other? You're welcome. You're welcome. And make sure you reach out to your state director, Sister Don Williams. He's in real estate out there in New Jersey. But at any rate, any more questions for Brother Dailey? Any more questions for Brother Dailey? Come on, Black Wall Street family. Now I know I'll start calling names here in a minute. No question? All right. Well, I guess we good. Thank you so again, Brother Dailey, for taking. Oh, okay.
I was just going to ask, what tool do you use, Mr. Dailey, to keep your files organized for submission?
the files or Adobe. I have a full subscription. I make sure that all of my files are organized there, and it's linked to my OneDrive. So when I'm doing it, I can move. You should be able to stack and move your proposal, your pieces around. You should be able to move it around so it's organized and see it all at once. But that's the easiest way to do it. So just have it all sitting there and then combine it at one, or then separate it at one, and then just label it and then reorganize it. But you got to probably buy the suite program.
All right. Well, I thank everyone for your participation today. And we certainly enlist Brother Dailey. If you have, I don't see Mother Rahima on, so if you have any closing remarks, you can dismiss.
Oh, you say what? You do some closing remarks? Yeah, I'm sorry. I will actually. If you guys, I like talking to folks, and I like some of these workshops. But I know some people they need more inspiration than they need instruction. So I'm gonna close with this last thought here from Dennis Kimbrough. If you don't have it, I would add it to my library. It's a necessary book. It's called Think and Grow Rich: A Black Choice. I keep it with my kids when I'm here for my Saturday Science, and we start off with it. But it's daily motivations for African American success, and I like it. And today it says it's hammer time. And Harriet Tubman has a quote that says, "I don't care how many times you hear the word no, you ain't gonna give up, either live nor or die." And then he says the idea of taking one day at a time may seem very narrow. However, never underestimate the cumulative effect of the days we live. Take, for example, a single penny. If you see a penny lying on the sidewalk, you hardly feel it's worth the effort to bend over and pick it up. But suppose you begin to double that penny each day for a month, and at the end of the week, you would have only 64 pennies. That's not very impressive. But at the end of the month, you would have 536,870,912 pennies, or the equivalent of $5,368,709, more than $5 million. One moment may not seem important in one day, but as we begin to multiply those moments, it's astounding how many we would have in a month. My little calculator doesn't have the capacity to tell me how many moments we have in a year, and it's utterly beyond my imagination to think how many moments could be accrued in a lifetime. Watch a stonecutter bang away at a stone with his hammer and wedge. He might hit the stone 100 times with no apparent effect, but on the 101st blow, the stone cracks. The point is, the 101st lick did not crack the stone itself. It was a cumulative effect of the 100 blows before that brought the result. That is the way our moments and days work. Sometimes it seems we're making little progress. Sometimes it seems all our efforts are useless, but we keep trying. We struggle without giving up. Then one day, the victory we have sought belongs to us. It was not the final effort. It was all the effort that went before. Like the stonecutter, you have to say, I will hammer my way through success. I'm going to leave it there, Dr. Carter. Thank you for letting me have that last word.
You're more than welcome, brother, and that's where we're going to end it. And I encourage all of you to continue this week communing, fellowshipping with the Black Wall Street family. Go to blackwallstreet.org/Zoom and join any one of the state or regional Zoom calls or any other committee or national council. And also visit blackwallstreet.org Trail of Tears. Get your knowledge up on the history 195 years ago. But with that said, God bless you all. We'll see you next week. And may God bless all of you.